Hi everyone! This is the video tutorial on how to implement SDK version 2 in your SwiftUI application. It covers all the necessary settings and code, including setting up remote configurations for paywalls. Let's make some money for your apps by implementing in-app subscriptions using Adapty IO. Now to the video.
Alright, so I'm starting here with a completely empty Xcode project. It's an iOS app and I've changed absolutely nothing about it. But before we can actually start coding up anything, we have to go through a bit of setup. So I will go to my project file here and make sure to copy the bundle identifier, because we will need that in a few different places now. So first of all, let us switch back to Safari and let's go to App Store Connect, because we will have to add our iOS app to App Store Connect in order to set up the subscriptions, and then also do pretty much the same thing in Adapty's dashboard. So in App Store Connect, go to the Apps tab, click the plus icon, say New App, and then you will probably need to go to Certificates, Identifiers and Profiles to add your new bundle ID. So this usually glitches out for me, so I usually press the back button here a few times until I'm at this Register a New Identifier screen. Select App ID, select App, and then in here, make sure Explicit is selected, not Wildcard, and then just paste in your bundle ID that you just copied from Xcode. So usually this is com or de, depending on your country, dot your company name, dot your application name. And then as a description, I will just call this one my sub app, so my subscription app, just the example project. Now this would be then the name of your project or a description of your app that you want to add. Hit continue and hit register. Now we have the bundle ID or the app registered. And now back in the app screen, let's hit the plus one more time, say new app. For the platform, let's select iOS and let's select our bundle ID from this drop-down menu here. All right, primary language, I will just set it to English US. I will just call this my sub app test. Doesn't really matter for this video. The SKU, StoreKit unique identifier, I think that's what it stands for. Yeah, that's just a unique ID you will have to set. So I will just usually use the bundle identifier here, and then you don't have to worry about this user access down here. Just hit create, and this will take a few seconds, and then it will take us to the new App Store Connect page for our app. And if you've never seen App Store Connect, there are a few different tabs on the top, but you will mostly be using the App Store tab. And then there are a few different sections on the left-hand side. And first of all, we will go into the subscription section, because that's what we want to set up. And with subscriptions, you always have to first create a subscription group. So for example, your app might have different tiers of subscriptions. So the user can either pay monthly or yearly or weekly, but you want all of these tiers to have the exact same functionality inside of your app. And that's what you use a subscription group for. Now, of course, you can have a group for the silver subscription with a weekly, monthly and yearly subscription inside, and then one group for the gold subscription, for example. We will just hit create here, and I will just call it premium. Let's hit create one more time. And now we have our premium subscription group here, as you can see at the top. And now we can add actual subscriptions to it. So let's hit create, and I will just call this premium monthly. I will once again use the bundle identifier as the base here, and then just say .premium .monthly. I like to always do this for my product IDs, and then just hit create. All right, so now you will be taken to the page for that specific subscription, premium monthly here. As you can see, you will have to add some more metadata before you can submit it. And what that means is that you have to add a localization and some review information down here, but that doesn't really matter for the sake of this video. What does matter though is the subscription duration. So we will set this to 1 month, as this is the monthly one. Checking the drop down again, other options would be 1 week, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year. So we will just go with 1 month. And then we will also add a subscription price. So currency doesn't really matter. I'll just use the euro here. And then I'll say per month, this should be $4.99. Let's hit next. And then it will ask us to confirm the prices for all of the other regions. And this is basically auto-generated. You can, of course, change it to have a different price in a different region. I think for starters, you can just leave it as is. Hit next. There's one more overview here. You can also download this and then just press confirm. Okay, so now we have our subscription prices here. And now let's also add a localization. So the display name will be Premium Monthly and the description will be Become a Premium Member. Let's say add. And that should be good to go. And then the review information here you will have to fill out once you actually submit the app, including this subscription, to the App Store. Last, let's hit save. And then let's do the exact same thing for a yearly subscription as well. So let's go back to the subscriptions page. We're still under the premium group. So let's add one more subscription. I will call this one Premium Yearly. Product ID, once again, your bundle ID .premium.yearly. Let's hit create here. And now we're going to do the exact same setup. So now for the subscription duration, I will of course choose 1 year. For the price, let's say the monthly was $5. So let's say the yearly should be something like $25. Of course, this is absolutely up to you to decide. I will leave all of these as they are proposed. Let's hit confirm. All right, and now let's also add the localization, Premium Yearly as the display name, and become a premium. Was it user or member? I don't even quite remember. So let's just say become a premium user. Let's say add. And lastly, let's save the subscription as well. And now going back, we have our premium subscription group with our monthly and our yearly subscription. And next, let's set up all of this in Adapty's dashboard as well. So going to Adapty here, you will either see this page right here if you already have a product on there or an app on there. In that case, just hit add new app here in the drop-down menu. Otherwise, you will already see a prompt asking you to create your first app. So let's say add new app. I will say my sub app. I think that's what it was called, right? Yeah, exactly. Category doesn't really matter. So in our case, I will just say productivity. Then you can upload an app icon just so it's displayed up here in the corner. Not important right now. Okay, and there you can see the app was added successfully. And then you already have a quick start guide down here. So let's open up the first tab, and there you will see we will have to install the iOS SDK into our app. So let's copy this repository URL up here. Otherwise, I would already have it open right here. So this is just a GitHub page for the iOS SDK. Let's go back to Xcode, say file, add packages. Let's wait for it to load. Now we can just paste it in here. As always, Xcode fails to load the README. This does not depend on Adapty. This is just an Xcode error. I hope that they will fix it one day. Let's say add package again, and we should be good to go. So now let's go into our actual app. Let's say import Adapty, and you will see that this does work. So we have successfully added the package. Going back to the Adapty dashboard, we now have to add a configuration, and right here you can already see your API key. So you can just copy this little snippet, and in your app, since we are using SwiftUI, and let me re-indent this real quick, I will just create an initializer in our abstract, and in here just say adapty.activate. Just paste this little code snippet from the dashboard. In your iKit, you would place this in your app delegate application.finish launching function. All right, looking at the dashboard once again, you will see that the SDK is not installed right now, and this is an automatic check basically. So we should go back to Xcode and actually run this app in a simulator real quick. So you will see this is just an empty screen, but now going back to the dashboard and refreshing the page, we no longer have this reminder here that it's not installed, because it is in fact installed into the app, or installed in the app. And looking at this drop down here, you will also see that the Apple logo says connected now. Okay, the next step is to set up the store configuration. So let's open up the drop down. We will have to paste in the bundle identifier. So let me grab that real quick. Okay, let's paste it in. Then we can copy this URL for App Store server notifications and go back to App Store Connect. And then in here, I always fail to find it, but I think it's in pricing and availability. No, it's not. Then it might be an app information. Yeah, there it is. Here we can add the App Store server notifications URL. This basically is a URL that Apple will call every time that you do something inside of StoreKit, and this way Adapty will get forwarded all of the information directly from Apple. So just click Setup URL, paste the URL, and make sure to use version 1 notifications, as you can also see right here in the URL. Hit save, and then do the same for the Sandbox server URL. Select version 1. Paste the URL and hit save. Okay, and this page is automatically saved, so no need to press the save button here. Going back, we still need our App Store shared secret, and we can get that from clicking on subscriptions. And here you will see a section called app specific shared secret. Hit manage, hit generate, and then just copy this shared secret and paste it back in the Adapty dashboard. Hit save. And you should be good to go. We will not be setting up the Play Store configuration since this is an iOS only app. So let's close this again. And now we have pretty much set up the app. Now let's set up the paywalls and the products. So we have already added our two subscriptions, one yearly and one monthly, for our premium subscription group in App Store Connect. And now let's do the same in the Adapty dashboard. So let's go to products and paywalls. And in Adapty, you first of all have to create a paywall. So let's do that first. Let's give it a name of my paywall 1. And for the ID, I will just say this is paywall-1. This thing down here is very interesting because it is basically a dictionary that we can send with this paywall to the iOS app to configure something in the app. So in our example, we will just configure the title that will be shown on the screen on iOS. So let's say add row. It should be a string. The key will be a title, and the value will be my paywall title. Now let's hit save and publish. And you will see a little arrow here saying we must have at least one product, and we don't have that yet. So let's hit this little link to create a new product. And we will basically create the two products that we already had in App Store Connect. So the first one was premium monthly, period was monthly, and access level is premium. This is the, this is already given basically. That's why I also called it premium in App Store Connect. But of course you can create your own access levels inside of Adapty. And now we also need the product ID. So let's paste in the bundle identifier again, and then just say premium.monthly. This was the exact product ID that we use in App Store Connect. Let's hit save. Let's go back to the products and let's create the second product as well. This one was premium yearly. Okay, now that we have these two products, let's go back to the paywalls page. And okay, looks like I was a bit too quick to press OK here, and it deleted the information. So let's just create a paywall again. We called this one my first paywall with the ID paywall-1. And we wanted to add something to the remote configuration. We added a string with the key of title and the value of my paywall title. For the products, let's add premium monthly and premium yearly as well. Now we can hit save and publish. And there we go. All right, so going back to the paywall screen, you will see our first paywall here. So let's go back to Xcode and actually start implementing in-app subscriptions. Before we can write any code, we will have to create a new file, and that's called a StoreKit configuration. So let's say new file. Let's search for StoreKit. And let's just call this one configuration. And let's make sure to hit sync this file with an app in App Store Connect. And then hit next. Just put it inside of your target somewhere. Let's hit create. And then this will sync for a second. All right, so the file has finished loading, and you can see we have our premium group here with our two subscriptions. Okay, so now let's go into the content view, and let me re-indent this real quick as well. So inside of content view, let's first of all import Adapty. And what we will now do is load our paywall and load our products and display them on the screen. So to do that, let's add a task to our VStack, and we can actually get rid of both the image and the text here. Inside of the task, this is a new SwiftUI feature that allows us to run concurrent code, in case you don't know, and Adapty also supports Swift concurrency, which is really nice in my opinion. They also have a closure-based API and a concurrency API. We will be using the concurrency API, but it's pretty much the exact same as the closure-based API. So let's create a do catch block here, since some of these functions can indeed throw errors, and we will just print the error. And I also like to add a second print with an emoji, just to be able to find the error in your console in the end. Okay, so first of all, let's load our paywall that we configured in the Adapty dashboard. So let's say guard-let paywall equals adapty.getPaywall. And we will have to provide the paywall identifier. So let's go back to Adapty and then copy the paywall identifier here. And now we can just paste that as a string into this function. Of course, I forgot to use try and await. And if this fails, we will just return out of the function. Okay, so now that we have our paywall, I want to be able to get our remote configuration, which is where we store the title for the paywall. So let's say if let title equals paywall.remote configuration. This is optional. And then for the field title, let's cast this to a string, and then we will have our title. And now let's save this to our content view. So let's create a state variable. I will call it title. This will be a string. In the beginning, this will of course be empty, or we can just say no title fetched. And then we can just say self.title equals this new title that we just loaded from our remote configuration, which we configured in the Adapty dashboard. So that's already pretty cool. Next, let's grab all of the products. So let's say guard-let products equals try await, once again as always, adapty.getPaywall products, and we will have to enter the paywall here. And if this fails, we will once again just return out of the function. And let's have a look at the products here. So let's option click them. You will see the type is Adapty Paywall product. So let's create another state variable so we can save them and actually display them in our SwiftUI list. So I will call this one products. This will be an Adapty Paywall product array. In the beginning, of course, it will be empty. And then here we can just say self.products equal these products that we just loaded here with the getPaywall products function from the Adapty SDK. And that's already mostly it for loading the paywall. So let's implement the UI next. So first we want a text with the title, and let's give this a font of perhaps large title. Next, let's add a list for all of the different products. Okay, SwiftUI already has a nice autocomplete here, but I think this doesn't work since the Adapty Paywall product is not identifiable. Yeah, exactly. So we will need to provide an ID. And let's see, yeah, we will use the vendor product ID. It has a weird name because, of course, Adapty supports both Google Play and App Store. So in our case, this will map to our App Store identifier for the in-app purchase, which is a subscription in this case, of course. Okay, so let's implement this list row. Basically, it will be an H tag with the title and the identifier on the leading side, and then a button to actually buy the subscription on the trailing side. So let's create a VStack here with a leading alignment. And first of all, a text of our product.localized title. Let's give this a font of headline, perhaps. And then below that, let's say product.vendor product ID. Let's give this a font of subtitle or subheadline. And then let's add a spacer here so our button is nice and pushed to the trailing side. And let's here add a button with the label of our product.localized price. And this is a string, but it is optional. So we will have to provide an alternative. We will just say no price found. Personally, I would handle this with a bit more safety in your actual app, making sure that there definitely is a price string here and you could show an alternative if applicable. And then in here in a second, we will code the in-app purchase flow. So looking at the preview here in the selectable mode, of course, no title has been fetched because this task modifier hasn't run yet. But if we go into the live preview, you will see the title will fetch and our 2 in-app purchase products will actually be displayed. And I really hate how this list looks. So let's add a different list style here. I will just say, yeah, plain should be good for now. Okay, that already looks a bit nicer, and let's also give this button a button style of perhaps bordered prominent. All right, so that should be good. Of course, clicking on the button does nothing. It will also state that way in the preview we will have to use the simulator going forward now. Purchasing a product is also incredibly simple in Adapty. We will once again use the async await alternatives here. So let's create a task and let's also create a do catch block. And in the catch part, let's just print the error once again. And perhaps let's also print our funny emoji just so we can find the error in the console in case it ever does come up. All right, and now there is a function. Let's say try await adapty.makePurchase given a product, which is the one that we got from our SwiftUI list up here. If we option click on this function here, you will see that this does have a return type, which is an Adapty profile. So let's say let profile equals this function call. And then this profile does have some interesting data associated with it. For example, the access levels that the user has unlocked, which were basically the subscription groups that we created in App Store Connect and in the Adapty dashboard. So in our case, we expect the user to have the premium access level now enabled. Let's also make sure to only show this list if the user does not have the premium access level enabled. So let's create a state variable. Let's call it has premium. This should be a Boolean, and of course it will be false by default. And then in our task here at the very beginning, we will just have a look at the profile. So we will say if let access levels equal, or actually this should be inside of the do catch block, sorry for that, equals try await adapty.get profile. This does return an optional profile, as you can see right here. So we will have to use this if let syntax. And then in here we can check if the user has the access level premium. So let's say for access level in access levels, and we can use this for in where syntax. I really like this about Swift, and I think very few people actually use it. So let's say where access level dot key, because this is a dictionary of string to access level, and where the key is premium. This is the access level that we have created. No, basically this is just an if check written as a fancy for in where loop. I just like these loops, so I'm gonna use them. And of course, I forgot that we don't care about the profile itself. We care about the access levels in the profile. Option clicking on them, you will see here, this is indeed a dictionary of string to access level. If we have found the premium key, we can just say has premium equals our access level dot value dot is active. Okay, so if the premium access level is active, then we will say the user has premium, and then we will set the state variable to true. We will basically do the exact same thing in our purchase closure here. So we can just copy paste this piece of code right here. And then of course, instead of saying access levels, we will have to say profile.access levels. All right. And then the last thing to do is embed this list here in a big if check. So we will say if has premium, then we want to show something, and else we want to show the list. So if the user has premium, we can just say hello premium user. Of course, this would then basically be your actual app and your premium content in your app. And you might also want to change to save this premium state into a keychain or something else, but that's completely up to you to decide. I think it should be sufficient to just use the adapty.get profile function and check whether the user has premium this way. Last thing before we can run this in the simulator is to go to our schema and say edit schema. And then for our StoreKit configuration, we need to actually select our configuration.storekit file. Now let's run this in the simulator. Okay, so as you can see, we now have our paywall, including my paywall title and our 2 products. Let's press the button for one of the products, and then you will see this in-app purchase sheet will come up. Unfortunately, it is half German, half English for me. My simulator is kind of messed up regarding localization, but that should be no issue. Of course, you can see that this is for testing purposes only, and you will not be charged for testing these in-app purchases. This works because we have added our StoreKit configuration file. Let's say abonnieren here, which is subscribe. And it's done. It will say you're all set. It looks like there was a Apple receipt validation error, so let me look into that and get right back to you. Alright, so I've looked into the issue, and it seems like there are a couple of different things at play here. First of all, we need to make sure that our subscriptions in App Store Connect are set to ready to submit, which means that we need to add at least one localized title, and we also need to add the review information, so just a screenshot of the app and a little description of it. Second thing, this doesn't work in the simulator, unfortunately, so trying it out on a real device will do the trick. And lastly, it actually looks like there's an issue going on with Xcode 14 and the sandbox testing environment used to test in-app purchases. So what I had to do was upload the app to TestFlight, download it on my iPhone, and then it worked without any issues, as you can see in the screen recording right here that I recorded for you. This is an issue with Xcode 14.1, and I hope that it will get resolved in one of the future versions. I will let you know down below in a pinned comment if and when it does actually get resolved. In the meantime, uploading to TestFlight and testing that way works without any issues. This is just an issue with the Xcode sandbox environment, so it would have also happened if you were to code your in-app subscriptions using StoreKit by itself. With that said, I hope you saw how easy it can actually be to implement subscriptions and implement different tiers of premium, different paywalls, and dynamically configure your app's paywall screen through Adapty.